So our next presentation is from Tom Hunt from the Vehicle Body Repair Association. Safe repair of accident damage alternative and fuel vehicles. Thank you, Tom.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I think you've covered most of my content, so. Right, so who am I? I don't know an awful lot of people in the room today. So Tom Hunt, I'm the National Technical Manager for the NBRA and the VBRA, which is, the NBRA is for cars, body shops, VBRA is for commercial body shops and bodybuilders. So a lot of what you've been speaking about today relates to what I do with our members. This is in association with Park Lodge International and Jeff Mack, because we've been working on a webinar to highlight the EV issues and risks and potential training. So I've worked in the industry for 39 years, so don't let the suit and tie fool you. 39 years ago I was in a boiler suit with hobnail boots, changing points and plugs and changing oil. So it's been something I've done for the best part of all my life. I've worked for an insurance company for 23 years, and I've worked for Fashion Research for 3 years, and now I'm with the Trade Association. So this is quite a busy slide, but it's got lots of legislation, acts that you need to get your head around if you already haven't. Specifically, the electricity at work regulations has been there for quite a while, but if you don't get it right, if you don't give your people the training, the equipment and the protective clothing, then you're going to be a liability. So this is all about mitigation. If you look at this and you're on top of it, you're in a really good place. I won't go through them all. You just need to know that if you've got a handle on this, then you've got a really good handle on your business. You've got 15 minutes, so I'm going to fly through. So what can happen? EV, alternatively fueled vehicles, ICE vehicles, we've had them forever and a day. Now we've got EV, completely different kettle of fish, and we're way behind the curve. Way behind the curve. So I know you were talking about training and electric vehicle training for recovery agents. It's exactly the same in the body shops and the mechanical world. The IMI say there's 3,600 techs out there, and probably 25% of them are training. So we need to get that going up. Where do you start? Instance that can and will catch you out very quickly. It will. You've seen the video, so I've got another video in a minute. Yeah. Once you see that vapor, it's too late. If you see a vehicle and it's got vapor coming out the bottom, you need to leave it alone. Simple as. The fire brigade, they're trained. They've got the breathing apparatus. They're the ones that will now have to deal with that vehicle, because it's not just toxic vapor; it's lethal. So that's a major risk that a lot of people don't understand. I'm not saying you don't, but in the body shops, they would potentially try and put a fire blanket over the vehicle. You're going to lose staff doing that. You need to get out of the way, let the professionals in. So what happens to an electric vehicle that causes it to go, I'm going to thermal runaway? It could be just mechanical failure, yeah, latent defects of the vehicle. It could have been involved in a collision, which is quite likely. If the battery is compromised and the cells break down, they don't get on. Yeah, there's protection around those cells, and there's hundreds of cells within a battery. As soon as they start talking to each other and chemicals start mixing, you're in for a problem. You can see from the diagram there what's going to happen, and before you get the fire, you're going to get that vapor. Yeah. So the VCE is the vapor cloud explosion that you've seen from the other videos. It's not just a little kindle of a fire and it grows into a fire. You see jets of extreme heat coming out of the vehicle, and that potentially is lethal. So these are the gases that will be emitted from a battery before it's going to explode. Yeah? Hydrogen, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, hydrogen fluoride, hydrogen cyanide, hydrogen chloride, small droplets of organic solvent, and all the others. it's not a good cocktail, is it? This is going to show you a video of some bikes that are in storage. But before you see that, it's again, you can find these videos online. It's not just in America, they're in Europe, they're in the UK, you alluded to it earlier. You know, Luton Airport, massive fire, started off with a diesel, I believe, caught to an EV. I think one of them fell through the floor, the heat was that bad. And then you had a Jaguar Land Rover dealership. They had an issue of a vehicle on charge, burnt the dealership there. It's massive. There you go. That's the vapor. That's the stuff that's like on the floor. You don't want to be breathing that in. I've seen a video of a body shop that had a car in the booth, the vapour started coming out, technicians running around not knowing what to do, and then you see the fire brigade coming with a breathing apparatus, they take control of the situation. It's gone too far. Now certain insurance companies, and I think the one thing missing today is the AVI, the Association of British Insurers, because they take the risk on of these vehicles being on the road. That's what the insurance is there for. So I think that there is an opportunity there. One of the insurance companies, they've got an EV policy and they wanted all their repairs to take on an electric blanket. And a lot of the repairs came to me and said, look, you know, what is the electric blanket? How much are they? What do they do? I said, well, they're probably about £1,500 if you want a good one. And they're like, what? Who pays for that? The insurance company didn't want to pay for it. It was down to the repair. I said, what are you going to do with an electric blanket anyway? He says, well, if it catches, what, you're going to go up to that car and put a blanket over it while it's jetting out? No. I said, what you need to do is get a thermal image camera and find out if the vehicle's compromised before. As soon as you see the gas, yeah, the vapour, as soon as you see it, it's all too late. Yeah? So, you're absolutely right, training is paramount. I wouldn't be investing in a blanket until you got the thermal imaging to know that the vehicle's in a position where it is getting hotter, you haven't seen any vapour, put the blanket over, and then potentially you need to call the fire brigade in. Yeah? It's that simple. I think if you get the training right, and you get the IMI certification at level 3 for deactivating the vehicle, and I think if what comes out today is legislation, acts that say this is the process recovery agents need to take, you get that right, that should mitigate your insurance risks, which should lower your premiums. That's my thinking and it's my opinion. So, who is responsible for calling the shots? What happens when it all goes wrong? You've alluded back to that earlier. What backup do you need? Is the work area safe? So, do you do risk assessments? You do. Do you do them on EV vehicles? And where does that risk assessment start? It should be way before you get to the vehicle, that's for sure. So someone has phoned in saying, I've got a problem with my car. That goes through probably to their insurance company. Have they just handed it on to you, or have they highlighted it that it's an EV? Is it a hybrid? What type of vehicle is it? We're not even talking about hydrogen vehicles today. That risk needs to be way up the chain and saying to you, this is where the vehicle is, this is the risk. Are you happy to take that vehicle on? And I think it comes back to the contract you were saying to earlier. Where is that in the contract? It should be a subsection. So if you're investing in extra equipment, extra training, is there an uplift for you going to get an EV vehicle? There should be. There should be a form categorising what you're going out to. When you get there, what is the situation? Is the vehicle being deactivated? Are you capable of deactivating the vehicle, shutting it down, making it safe? That's on the car, it's on a HGV. It's got multiple systems. It's not just one system you need to shut down, it's multiple systems. So how do you know the vehicle's shut down? If we talk about the vehicle manufacturer, they issue methods of repair. Some of the detail is in the methods. It stipulates the quarantine area around the vehicle. It tells you how to shut the vehicle down, but like you said earlier, they keep it into that method. They don't share it. It's not publicly available. You need to pay for it. And I think they need to come together and say, right, if it's 15 metres, brilliant. Who's going to drop a vehicle off to a body shop and say, right, that needs 15 metres? Should it be you that quarantine the vehicle, get paid for that quarantining the vehicle? Because a lot of you have gone to body shops, they haven't got the biggest car parks. You put 3 EVs in there, you just fill the car park if it's 15 metres per vehicle. It's a big issue. And then you've got non-standard EVs. So, I started watching some of these programs on Channel 4, I think it was, where you get an old E-Type and they want to create an EV out of it. That vehicle was never designed for an EV. It was never designed for the weight that's going to be carried for an EV. Some of the newer vehicles that have been changed to become EV, if they had an end cap on, that's out the window. You no longer have that end cap. You can see the orange wires under the wheel arch. You think, right, brilliant, it's EV, I know what I'm doing. Some of the manufacturers change that to black in their wisdom. Why? It seemed pretty obvious to me. If they're neon orange, you know what you're looking at. There's loads of stuff I could talk about with EV, and I think you're in for a really good day. It's a really good, refreshing audience to talk to, reference EV, and you've got a really good audience. Firefighters, hats off to you trying to deal with these things. They're incredibly toxic, they're incredibly difficult to put out, and I think you're right, 15 days and they reignite. Salvage agents, have they prepared for this? There's a multitude of things that need to be looked at. I'm around at lunch. If you've got any questions, please come and have a word. But that's pretty much it from me.
Thanks very much. Yeah, interesting, because there's a lot of crossover there from what came out of the Essential report in terms of handover. Might seem a simple thing for us, but it's highlighted there that certain things ought to be done at the point of taking the job. Anyway, thank you very much. We're now going to take a short break. Coffees, grab a biscuit or whatever's down there. Fantastic, mate. Before I hand over to Mick, I just thought of something coming out the back of that last presentation. He was talking about the IMI training. Well, the IVR now do 3 levels of their VR course. And I probably get all this wrong because I don't know that much about it. But you've got your entry level, your VR 27. But you then got 2 more levels that takes you up to IMI level 3. So you can get all of that through the IVR now and not having to go to the IMI. So keep it in-house, guys. Thank you. Next presentation, familiar face to a lot of you. Mick Burke, as a consultant working for PROF. Vast experience in operating storage facilities for the Met Police at Perivale and Charlton. He and I go back a long way with working together. He's got a very good, very interesting presentation. Mick Burke.
Good afternoon, everybody. I won't be long with this presentation because I think Tom and Derek have covered a lot of the issues I'm going to discuss with you today. A little bit of background. I was at the Met Police head of vehicle recovery for 17 years, and during that time I've probably got a better understanding of some of the challenges that the vehicle recovery industry face historically and now going forward, because we had our own facilities, we had 2 compounds, we had a fleet of recovery trucks. So I know the challenges that you guys face on a day-to-day basis. And just before I left, some of the work we were doing in regards to EV recovery and storage and the challenges we face and the investment that you guys face going forward. So I was really pleased when Richard asked me to come today. I think In addition to that, I think having AVRO colleagues and PROF in the same meeting is, is what's required going forward. A united voice, singing off the same song sheet. There's government colleagues here today that are also working on this, have a good understanding of it. So I think we're in a good place, but I think there's a lot to do. As I said, I left the Met beginning of May, and I, do I walk away from this or do I keep me nose in it? For me, some of the biggest challenges I faced when I was head of vehicle recovery at the Met, I was heavily reliant on the vehicle recovery industry. And it's often at times when you see a terrorist attack or something like that, the media, the news that goes on about it, when all the cameras are gone, we rely on certain people, and one of your industry is one of the key players. So I could go back to Tavistock. I see Mick there, Mick Jennings. He undertook all the recovery of the buses for us that were involved in the bombings. More recently, the Westminster Bridge attack. It was all fine until about midnight. You've got a massive crime scene that nobody can get near. Get a call at midnight. The government want Westminster Bridge open by 7 o'clock in the morning. You've got 42 vehicles on the bridge, from buses, cars, ambulances, police vehicles, no keys. So, just gone midnight, I'm ringing up all the recovery firms that I know in London saying, we need your help, we need to get this cleared, and we need to get London moving again. And that's where you guys have always come in. I'm passionate about what you've done for me in my previous job, so I really do feel it's worthwhile giving something back. Thank you. Just some of the challenges going forward, and Tom and as I said, Derek's covered it off well. Increased cost, whether it be premium on insurance, premises cost, recovery vehicles, training pay. Some of the challenges when we start talking about storing electric vehicles, damaged electric vehicles, is the investment in facilities, investment in training, policies and procedures, starting to look at contracts, revisions, variations, and generally the increased risk. I'll put the next slide in because I think again they touched on it, the media side of things. As soon as you hear about a vehicle fire, people are assuming it's an electric vehicle. The majority of vehicle fires are still either petrol or diesel, but as soon as you hear something like Luton Airport, everybody assumes, oh, it was an electric vehicle. But it's high profile in the media. It needs to be high profile amongst government departments that need to take on some of the challenges and investments that you guys are going to have to make, probably have already made, and will have to make in the future. Before I left the Met, we started doing some work on, some of the challenges that we knew were coming our way, and I probably had about 130 staff working in vehicle recovery across 2 sites, 2 8-acre sites, recovering in around 40,000 vehicles per annum. And a percentage of that is electric vehicles, and it's growing week by week. So all staff that came into contact with electric vehicles, and we've done everybody in the end. We've done the IVR 27 electric course. We trained our in-house drivers and key members of staff up to IMI level 2, so they could handle electric vehicles. That allowed us to disconnect service plugs on the high voltage system to isolate it. We trained all our drivers to disconnect the 12 volt batteries that you've seen in both presentations today. And we created a health and safety PowerPoint slide training for all our staff. It was in depth and we had many challenges with it. We've got different skill sets of people working at our facilities, but it was essential that we got everybody through that training. They understood it, and we had to go over it a few times with certain personnel, but we got to the point where we had everybody trained. We're talking about investment. We had to invest in equipment. We put together 6 EV kits That covered both our pounds, and we don't have a lot of recovery trucks. We had 7 recovery trucks at the time. But you know, the costs associated with it, as you all know, none of this stuff comes cheap. You know, and I'm not going to read through everything, but there's some of the equipment that, you know, rubber mats, rescue hooks, face shields, testers, fire blankets, spanners, insulated tape, everything. It all comes at a big cost, massive, massive cost. We also felt it was important that when we had recovered a vehicle, electric vehicle, whether it be damaged or undamaged, we have a process in place, stickers placed on the windscreen, capture whether the battery has been disconnected, if the vehicle has been isolated, and there's thermal checks. You know, we had to undertake thermal checks on the vehicles. We ran reduced staff at certain times. We had to review staffing levels. So if you had a situation where you have to conduct a number of thermal checks on a vehicle, we had to have staff on site 24/7, again, increased cost for us. Process and procedures, I think Tom touched on it, Derek's touched on it. There's a lot, you know, it was risk assessments, safe systems are working. As I touched on, the PowerPoint training for all the staff. And, you know, we cover off as the storage of vehicle. There's some examples there. We HPI check every vehicle before it comes in. Where possible, we disconnect the 12-volt battery. We do the thermal checks. We're fire blink. Everything there comes at a massive cost, not only for the equipment, for the time, for the training, for the process. You guys at some point are incurring them costs. And whether you signed the contract now, 12 months ago, is something that you really need to look at. We talked about storage, and Terry, in his capacity as chair of the NPCC, we spoke to the health and safety executive, and I don't think there's many facilities. We had 2 8-acre sites. We couldn't do a 15-metre cordon around the vehicle because we simply didn't have the space. If you did a 15-metre cordon around the vehicle, you know, this is just to highlight, you'd lose 71 spaces in total on your facilities. Now, you know, I know across the board storage facilities vary, but I don't know anybody that could incur the cost, because if you were to do that, the cost associated with it, you know, you'd lose 664,000 in a year. And I think to expect people to take this on is a challenge. Somebody's got to pay for it somewhere, and it shouldn't be you guys. If you compare it against the cost of storing a normal petrol or diesel vehicle. But that will be a challenge, and I know it's something that the NPCC have raised with the Health and Safety Executive. I know that it'll be something that will be discussed, and I know the majority of people can't stick to that 15 metres, but obviously, if and when we get some clear guidance on it, is something that you guys will need to think about. It might even be a case down the road, I think that, you know, we were discussing it last night, we may have to find facilities across the UK where damaged EVs are taken and stored, because the challenges of doing that is impossible. On top of that, it creates challenges and problems for anybody that leases premises. We lease our facilities, and when we started talking about storing damaged electric vehicles, landlords get very, very nervous. Our forensic teams, for those that do police work, wouldn't allow us to store damaged electric vehicles in the facilities that store pace vehicles. So we had to go and build prefabricated garages. That created problems with planning, and everybody's a little bit nervous, and I suppose that'll only get worse when you see things like the Luton Airport fire, but it's something that you guys need to think about going forward. Recovery trucks, again, you know, as I said, we had our own trucks, but obviously the example of the Corsa there and the different weights, a lot of people are using 3.5 tonne trucks, you know, going forward, although the right truck for the job. They don't have the capacity to carry these vehicles. So again, it's further investment for the vehicle recovery industry. And there's grandfather rights with driving licences that could be considered, and I know there is some work going on in the background about that. But again, it's all about investment, it's all about money, it's all about cost. And people can't shy away from that. Somebody's going to have to make that investment. In addition to that, we've found challenges when we were recovering damaged electric vehicles. We always try within London to get the recovery done within 45 to 50 minutes. But because of the equipment, because of the different sized trucks we were looking for, you know, on average it was taking up to 2 hours. And on top of that, we've got to take into account the cost of 2 police officers waiting roadside. The cost is just building and building and building. Going forward, I know we've got colleagues from the Home Office here today. I worked with the team on the stat fee, and we provided lots of facts and figures to our colleagues in the Home Office. That's some way off the stat fee review for electric vehicles. So, you know, it's what do we do in the interim? You know, I hear people talking this morning about providing free vehicle storage or schemes where, you know, you get £1 a day for 3 months. It's nonsense. You know, them days should be long gone, and people need to be, you guys need to be looking at your businesses and, you know, really sitting down and considering the costs. And I think historically the cost of recovery and storage is changing week by week, as is every industry. Where historically you might have gone and said, oh, we need an extra tenner to do a recovery. I think people need to sit down and really work out the cost of the whole thing and present your case. You need to be able to evidence cost increases. And once you can evidence that cost increase, if you're in a contract already, you should be asking for a contract review or variation. You should be meeting with your work suppliers, presenting your facts and saying, we can't do this anymore. Because the industry won't be able, you know, you won't be here. The number of operators that we've lost in the last 5 years alone, you know, speaks for itself. As I said, request a contract review, present your prices, variation. Don't wait on the stat review, fee review, because I think that's some way off. So, you know, you've got this interim period. And don't undertake work at the cost of your own business. You know, I know your specialism is vehicle recovery and storage, and you are experts in that. But where you need support and guidance, I think having colleagues from PROF, AVRO round to support you now, I think is where you need to be looking. I won't take up any more of your time. Thank you, and it was a pleasure to present this today.